Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, and welcome back to this next video. And this is the 20th video of the chapter 2 of immunology. And in this particular video, I want to focus on the basophils. These basophils, they are the white blood cells, and they belong to a specialized class of the white blood cells, which are known as the granulocytes. Now, they are known as the granulocytes because of the presence of the granules in their cytoplasm. These basophils, they are very important in allergic reactions as well as in the parasitic infections. If you talk about their origin and development, the basophils, they are made in the bone marrow from the hematopoietic stem cells. The hematopoietic stem cell give rise to a specialized class of the cells which are known as the myeloid progenitor cells, and the basophils, they are then derived from this particular progenitor cells. So if you look at the basophils, they are derived from the same cells which give rise to the other types of the granulocytes like the neutrophils and the eosinophils. So all of the granulocytes, they are derived from the same progenitor cells. These basophils, if you look at their morphology, they are usually round or irregularly shaped. They are a cytoplasm that contain granules, and the nucleus of the basophils, that is usually a two-lobed nucleus. If you talk about their staining, we usually stain the basophils utilizing a specialized stain which is known as the Wright-Giemsa stain, which is a mixture of three other stains like the methylene blue, the azure B, and the eosin Y. And this particular stain, it actually stains the cytoplasm and granules of the basophil purple blue, as you can see in this particular image, which make them distinguishable from the other blood cells or the other granulocytes. For example, if you look at this particular image, you can clearly see the differences in their staining pattern. The basophils, is they are granulocytes, that means that contain the granules. And now I want to focus on the content of the basophil granules. If you look at the granules which are present in the basophils, that contain a lot of things. For example, the granules in the basophil contain histamine, it contains heparin, it contains proteoglycans, it contains the lipid mediators, the cytokines, the chemokines, the enzymes, and the growth factors. And we'll be focusing on the role of all of these components of the granules in great detail. So first, we are going to focus on the histamine and its function. The histamine is actually a biogenic amine. This is the structure of the histamine. And the histamine, they are very important in the allergic reactions as well as in the inflammatory responses. Now, how the histamine, they actually work. If you look at the histamine, they usually perform their function through specialized receptors, and there are four types of the receptors present in the human beings. One that is known as the H1 receptor, and you can call this is the histamine 1 receptor. You have got the histamine 2 receptor, the histamine 3 receptor, and the histamine 4 receptors. And all of these receptors, they are actually the G-coupled protein. I'm not going into the detailed structure of the receptor, but the receptors for the histamine, all these four kinds of the receptor, they belong to this special class of the receptors which are known as the G-coupled proteins, because at their internal membrane, or their not internal membrane, on the intracellular side of the cell, they are attached to this specialized G protein. Now, each receptor subtype that is associated with specific physiological functions and distribution within the body. If you look at immunologically, so there are two receptors, two histamine receptors, which are important immunologically. The first one, that is the histamine 1 receptor, and the histamine 1 receptor, that is present on the smooth muscle cells, on the endothelial cells, the neurons, and certain immune cells. Now, when the histamine, it binds to this particular receptor, and the receptor gets activated, it is responsible for a variety of the immunological functions. For example, the activation of the receptor it leads to the vasodilation. You can see in this particular image, this is, you can say, a normal blood vessel. This is a dilated blood vessels. So the binding of the histamine to the H1 receptor, say for example on the endothelial cells or the blood vessels, that is going to lead to the process of the vasodilation. Secondly, the activation of the histamine 1 receptor, that actually leads to the smooth muscle contraction. If you look at this one is a relaxed smooth muscle, and this one is a contracted smooth muscles. Thirdly, the activation of the histamine receptor, that actually leads to the bronchoconstriction. You can see over here, this is a normal air lung way, and this is, you can say, an inflamed lung and airway. Now, these effects, the vasodilation, the smooth muscle contraction, and the bronchoconstriction, they're actually associated with the allergic reactions and in the inflammatory responses that I just told you, that histamine is responsible for the allergic reaction as well as in the inflammatory responses. If you talk about the second important receptor of the histamine, that is the H4 receptor, and this is yet another receptor which is important immunologically. Now, when histamine, you can say, binds to this particular receptor, the histamine 4 receptor, that actually gets activated. Now, where the histamine 4 receptor is present? Now, this histamine 4 receptor is mainly found on the immune cells like the mast cells, the eosinophils, the dendritic cells, and the T cells. So, the activation of the histamine H4 receptor, that is responsible for a variety of the immunological functions, like it is responsible for the chemotaxis, and this is very important for the directional movement of the immune cells towards the site of the injury, towards the site of the inflammation. So this is one of the important function of the activated histamine 4 receptor. Secondly, the activated histamine 4 receptor is also responsible for the release of the cytokines, and the cytokines, they are very important in the inflammatory responses. So if this is the granulocyte, for example, we consider this as a basophil. So the binding of the histamine to the H4 receptors, that is actually going to leads to the production of the cytokines, for example. Thirdly, these histamine 4 receptor are also very important in the allergic reactions, or the you can see this particular image. This is actually showing you the allergic reactions. So the activation of the H4 receptor is going to attract the immune cells to the site of the infection. It is going to modulate the activity of the immune cells, thereby contributing to the regulation of the immune responses. So this is one of the important components present in the granules of the basophils. In my next video, I'll be focusing on the functions of the heparin, which is yet another important component present in the granules of the basophils. So if you like the video, please subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, share it with your friends, and if you have any question, you can ask me in the comment section.